Hello. Hi everyone. Hi Radhika. Hey, hi Rama. Hi Karan. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so like in the last session, right? So last week, like Saturday that we had a session, so we were talking on to the part of hypothesis testing, right? So I hope the idea is still in the mind, right? What hypothesis is, right? So can anyone tell me what is a null hypothesis and what is an alternate hypothesis?
Null hypothesis is the hypothesis which is the commonly accepted or the commonly given hypothesis where the condition has to be either equal to or greater than equal to or less than equal to the value. And alternate hypothesis is anything which is proved, like which is countering the null hypothesis and will be either greater than or less than.
Right, right. So basically, null is something that we are believing it to be true, which is our assumption that this is something that has been happening since a long time, and alternate is something that is challenging it, right? So alternate is something that brings the change in the world, right? This is what it is said. Alternate hypothesis is something that will bring the change in the world. So that is how we define the thing. Okay. So we had understood, right? So a different kind of stuff, as in we were talking about the tail test as well, right? When we talked about critical points, that what we do is we define certain critical values. If the value goes outside that, that means you will reject null hypothesis. If the value comes within your acceptance range, you will call it you will say that you fail to reject null hypothesis, right? So this is something that we were talking about, right? I hope so. This is what we discussed. And what's the difference between directional and non-directional test? So Rama, a question to you. So what's the difference between a directional and non-directional test?
Directional, the average is, if the average is more than mu, then it is directional.
Okay, and what is non-directional?
Directional should be average. If it is two-tailed and the, I remember the average direction, non-directional. Two-tailed distance, which has the critical value, critical regions in the both the sides.
Mhm. So basically, if suppose you are trying to compare with something like equal to, if I am saying that Sachin's average score is equal to 50, now this will be a non-directional test or a two-tailed test. So now his average can be more than 50 also, it can be less than 50 also,
Okay.
right? So in that way, you will have to test on both the sides. That it should not be less than 50, it should not be more than 50. And when we talk of directional, that is one tail test. In that we have the condition like when we say Sachin's average is more than 50. Now when we are assuming that his average is more than equal to 50, now I will have to test only on one side,
Yeah,
right?
50 or
That
above, yeah.
no, 50 or less, because 50 or
Average
above
is above
he's
50.
claiming. 50
Okay.
and above he's claiming. He's saying that my average is more than 50, right?
Okay.
If he scores 70 also he's correct. He scores 90 also he's correct.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just have to make sure that if he scores below 45, I have to tell him that Sachin, your average score is not more than 50, it is less than 50.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So that is a one tail test that we have. So like this was directional hypothesis. When he said if you say that the average is more than 70, then I just have to check that if it turns out to be less than 70, then I will reject null hypothesis. Otherwise, I will fail to reject. Okay. So now what we did was we were finally talking about the technique, that how do we actually figure it out, or how do we actually tell that we reject or fail to reject. So for that, we have two methods that we use. One is called as critical value method and another is called as p-value method. Okay, so we will start with critical value method. Now, critical value method, you all are already aware of, something we have already seen, right? Now, let's try to again understand this with a small example. So, now the AC example. So, AC company said that, we have an average of 350. We sell 350 air conditioners every month with a standard deviation of 90. Okay. Now, the company said that the average is going to change, right? That means either they will be selling more than 350 or they will be selling less than 350. That means the status has changed. Okay. Now, how do I validate this? So now, when you validate this thing over here, so let me just open up something. Can you answer this question now? Try to write the things on a
Standard
paper.
deviation of sample, the standard deviation of population upon root n, that is n is sample size, right? Is that so?
No, what's the number?
So I'm saying standard deviation of a sample is equal to standard deviation of a population divided by root n, where n is the sample size. This formula is right, right? So then going by that, standard distribution sample mean, population mean is given. Standard deviation. No. Population standard deviation is also given. So 90 upon root 36 will be the standard deviation of
15.
Yep.
of the sample.
Right? It will be 15. So we know that standard deviation of the sample is given by, if you know the standard, if you know the deviation of the population, sigma divided by root n, that is 90 divided by root of 36. So you will get 15. Right?
Yes.
So now this is what I get. So what we do is, because definitely if you will have to check, that, that whether the sample sale has changed or not, you are going to find the deviation of the, that sample. So what we did was we took 36 such samples and we found that the standard deviation of the sample will come out as 15. Now what we do is, now when you do your null hypothesis, you do that null hypothesis with some confidence level, right? You will define some confidence level that, okay, I want to, fail or reject the null hypothesis with some confidence level of 95%, or you will say with the confidence level of 90%, right? You will have to define those confidence level beforehand. So if the confidence level is 95%, what will be the alpha?
5% divided by 2, z alpha by 2.
5%, alpha will be 5%.
Alpha will be 5%, yes.
Right, so we define the confidence level beforehand. Now, what we do is, once you have defined your alpha level, then what you do is you find the z critical scores of that, right? So before you do that, so what you do is
1.96.
1.96. Now what you do is you find that value of that 1.96, right? So that is this. You will find that in the table. 1.96 is the value that will come up. I hope you all remember this, how this 1.96 value will come up, because if you are saying alpha of 5%, 2.5 on left side, 2.5 on the right side, right? That is how you find the values. Okay. And this is the same thing, upper these confidence levels. So you are saying that if you want to make sure that with the confidence, 95% confidence level, you want to find out that the sales will be 350 only. So you say, okay, if the sales come out between average, that is 350 plus 1.96 into standard deviation of that sample, 379.4 and 320. If the values come between these 2 points, that means the average hasn't changed. If the value comes more than 379, I will say yes, the average has increased. If the value comes below 320, I'm going to say no, I mean yes, the value has decreased. Right?
So you're saying if they will be giving the sample mean also, they have already given the sample mean in the question, I think 370 something. So you're saying if
350. 350. So we take that the population mean. What was the population mean?
right, 350 is the population mean, but I think they've also given the sample mean.
Right.
So you are saying your point is when we calculate the UCV, upper critical value and lower critical value, as per 95% confidence level, if whatever values we are getting, that is 379.4 and 320.6. So if the sample mean, which they have given in question, is more than 379.4, that
What was that? So what was that value? Let me just come back. It was 370.16. So they have given the value as 370.16. Now, if that mean is coming as 370.16, that means it is lying within my range.
yes.
So what will I do in that case? I will fail to reject null hypothesis. Got it?
Why will you fail to reject null hypothesis?
Also, the value is coming between that.
So, okay.
See, what I'm saying is, see, now let's, so what we did was, we said that this was the mean of the population. Correct? Now, this was my null hypothesis. That my null hypothesis is that the average hasn't changed, it will be 350 only. Alternate hypothesis was that it is not equal to 350. Now what I did was I calculated the upper critical value and lower critical value. That now I am saying that if the value comes more than 379 or if it comes less than 320, right? This is 320, this is 379. If the values come in the red area, that way, that means I will say that my alternate hypothesis is true, right? And if the value comes in this area, white area, that means my null hypothesis is true. What was the mean that I got? I got the mean of 371. Now 371 is a point that will lie somewhere over here. Right? 371 will lie somewhere over here. Now it is lying in my acceptance region. So that means my null hypothesis is true.
But this acceptance region, we have only decided, right? 95% confidence level, we have decided. If we decide 90% confidence level, then it might not come in our acceptance region.
So that way,
95%.
got it?
I'm saying who is it given in the question that we have to go with 95% confidence level or?
Yes. That will be given in the question.
Okay.
And Radhika, you were wrong at one place. I mean, what will happen if you increase the, if you make the confidence interval as 90%? Will that range increase or will that decrease?
Sorry, the range will increase. Oh, sorry, wait. If you make it 90%, then the range is, because it will be 1.6, ZC will be 1.68 or something it was. In
so it will decrease.
Decrease, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So once if it will decrease, that means the value where it is coming right now, 379.4, the upper critical value, that will go further behind, right?
So that will go outside that range. So in that, if suppose you had taken that confidence level of 90%, you might have rejected null hypothesis.
Exactly.
But when you are right, and but if
Right.
you're taking 95%, we are failing to reject null hypothesis.
Okay, that's what, because I thought we are assuming 95% confidence level. That is why I was getting confused that who gives this 95%, the confidence level who gives?
So this is something that will be given to you in the questions, and also on the kind of sampling you would have done. It depends how much confidence level you will look for. 95% is like standard that we take.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Right. So now this is something you already have done. So can you calculate the critical value at 3%? So suppose I want to do it with the 97% confidence level now, right? So although we have done it with we calculate the stuff for only 90, 95, and 99, but you can look out for 97 also. Are you able to find it? So you will look out for 1.5, right? 1.5%, that is 0.015 in that Z table. What are you getting? What's the Z critical that you are getting?
Two 2.17.
2.17, right? That is what you will get. 2.17. Okay. So now, if this is the question, now what you have to do is you have to find the upper critical values and lower critical values for Z critical equal to 2.17. So what will be that? So the same example, the AC example only. We are assuming that's AC example only over here.
So we'll multiply this 2.17 into the standard deviation of
So
that was I think 15, right?
No, the question is a little different. So this is what we
Okay.
have.
The sigma is for the population. Sigma out of 4. Sigma upon 4 upon 9. 9. 4 divided by
4 by 7.
sorry, 4 by
Square root of 49 is 7, na?
okay, the 4 by 7.
So what will be the upper critical values and lower critical values? Everyone, you all have to find it, right?
It will be 36 plus 0.57 or 36 minus sorry, 36 plus 0.57 into 2.17, that is 1.24. 36 plus 1.24 or 36 minus 1.24.
That is 37.24 you are saying, right?
Yes.
Okay. Others, are you all on the same page? Right, so plus minus 1.24, you're right. Anyone not clear, please let me know so I can explain you if anyone has any doubts. Okay. So now the next question of this.
The sample mean does not lie in the range of lower critical value to upper critical value, which means we cannot accept null hypothesis. Like, yeah, null hypothesis is not true.
Okay. Others? What about others? What do you think?
Null hypothesis is not true. Yeah.
Sorry?
It's not true. Null hypothesis is not true. We fail to reject null hypothesis.
We will reject null hypothesis.
And it's actually, it is in the critical area, right? It's in critical. So
No,
we
so
can,
if you see the values, so what are the values?
it's the lower critical value is 34.76.
34.76 over here.
Yeah.
Sorry, 34.76 over here and
Yeah.
37.24 over here.
Yes.
Our critical value is 37 and
Yeah.
sample mean is 34.5,
Yeah.
right?
It is in the lower critical. Yeah. It
So
is in
if
the
you
red
find
line.
over here, this is going
Yeah.
to lie in
Yeah.
this region, right?
Right. Right.
37 will start. So it falls in the
Critical area.
critical region. So
Yeah.
what we
critical
do is
region.
we will reject null hypothesis.
Reject. Yeah. Reject null.
Right? If the
Yeah.
value was, suppose I say the value was 35, what would have been an answer?
It will be in the acceptance area. Acceptance.
We failed.
We failed to reject null hypothesis.
Yeah, so we would have said we failed to reject null hypothesis. Correct? Okay. So now we have seen, right, how do you apply this critical method technique? Okay. So just to have a quick questions over here. So if you have that, if you have a question that your null hypothesis is H naught, mu should be less than equal to 350. And alternate hypothesis is mu should be greater than 350. So what type of test will it be? One tail test, two tail test, upper tail test, lower tail test?
Lower tail test, one directional.
Check again. Don't you think it will be upper tail test? Because lower tail test will always be true only, right? Because the assumption is that the sale are less than 350. And we have to check whether it is, we have to prove whether it is more than 350. Right? So this will be one tail test, but it will be upper critical value. correct? Because this is what we have. So this is the point, and this is what he's saying, that the sale are less than this, less than 350. This is he's saying that sales are less than 350. So we have to figure it out that no, it is more than 350. So for that, we will have to set up a upper critical value. Based on that, we will be able to tell it. All right. Yes.
Null hypothesis is that mu is less than equal to 350,
Hmm.
which means that if the mu falls below 350 or equal to 350, we are fine. We will accept null hypothesis, like we will fail to reject null hypothesis.
Hmm.
But if it is more than 350, only then we will choose the alternate one.
Hmm.
So I was saying lower tail test because
So that is assumption. Now, why will I test it? Now that is what I'm assuming it. Null hypothesis, but that is my assumption. That I am saying that my sale is less than 350. So I'm assuming that my
okay,
assumption is this. What
Mhm.
I have to prove, I will have to test for that now. That the court is, judge is sitting over here, that he is sitting with an assumption that this person is not guilty. Right? Now, if you have to prove that he is guilty, you will have to give the proof. So that is what we test it for. So if I'm saying that this if I have to prove that the sale is more than 350, I will have to conduct a test. And that test lies on the upper tail side. So that will be upper tail test. Right?
Right.
If the value comes more than 360 or comes 370, I will say that no, it is not less than 350, it is more than 350.
Okay.
So now I'll share this file also so that we can all go to the question. Now what we do is, let us take another example over here. Now this is something that you all have to do it. Now please take again your pen and paper and finally do this question. There are two questions that we will do, one more question, and then we will be done with the hypothesis testing. So I will be telling you one p-value method, and then we will be done with this. So please now take it and find the answer for this. So now you all have to share the answers over the chat, right? Everyone has to share it. Yep, are you able to do it? Okay, so we have some answers. So Radhika of UCV, LCV, okay. So now you have to give the final answer, right? That what should we do? Okay. No, so now 3.9 is something that you are taking as a limit, right? So sample, I think there is something wrong you have done. So sample amount of lead, right? So if you see over here, the standard deviation of the sample is given to you. And it is also given to you that what is the sample mean amount of lead that was found. So those things are given to you already. Rama, so you are saying UCVS 3.56 and LCVS 1.64. How? Okay. See, others, I hope you are able to find it. So, what is the alpha in this? All of you answer this, right? So, let's go by 3%. Okay. Is it a one tail test or two tail test? One tail test. Okay. Now, if it is a one tail test, right, let us make it. So, it is one tail test because the as per our assumption, we are saying the amount should be less than equal to 2.5. So we have to find and check we have to find the upper critical value. Now when you find the, I'm sure that most of you would have made a mistake over here. Now when you have the alpha as 3%, what is the Z critical that you all have got? Okay, Radhika has found it 2.17. Others?
What's the question, Amit? Sorry.
What's the Z critical? What is the Z critical that you got? See now this was something maybe if we not discuss. So this was more like if the tail is one side, one tail test. So if the critical region has to lie on one side, don't you think that entire 3% will lie over here? Why will I split it? We split it in that case when it's a two tail test. You say that okay, if it is below this, it is lower critical, this is upper critical. But now because if this is a one tail test, why will I divide that 3% into two parts? Right? Because all that area will lie only on one side. Am I right? Right? We were breaking that significance into two parts because when the test was two tailed, because we understand if it is more than this or less than this, then we need to find it. So technically, that 3% is going to lie on one side of the area. So what you will do is you are going to find the Z critical for 0.97, right? You will find the Z critical at 0.97. What is that value coming? No, it will be not too less. That won't be the number. Right, so let's find it out.
1.89.
It would be somewhere around that.
1.89.
So we'll find it. Right, so we can see this one. So 1.88 or we can say 1.89, whatever we want. Right, so it's basically an average of that. So we can take it as 1.88. Right? Not 1.8, but 1.88 because 1.8 is this, and also it value comes over here, right? 0.97, 1.88. So we take the second decimal place as well. Okay. So now the Z critical is 1.88. Now what we need to do is we need to find the upper critical value and lower critical value. Now the things are done right because average is given to you. Right. So what is the average? That is 2.5. 2.5 plus 1.88 into what will be the standard deviation? Standard deviation of the sample? Right? So I can also see, we can go step by step also, like we have this complete. So what we do is, first of all, what will be the null and alternate hypothesis? Null hypothesis will be that the average is less than 2.5 and alternate is that it is more than 2.5, right? That is what my null and alternate hypothesis is. Now what you do is you find the Z critical, right? So Z critical will come out to be as 3%, which is 1.88, right? This is what you get it as your Z critical now. Now, once you have Z critical with you, now what you need to do is you need to find out the decision that whether the company should raise an alarm or not. And in order to check that thing, we will have to find the upper critical value and the lower critical value. And how we will do that is, so we know the mean value. Mean value is 2.5. I will say 2.5 plus 1.88 into standard deviation is of 0.6. 0.6 divided by root of
100.
this 100, that is 10, right? So you will be able to find it. What will come? So it will come 0.06 into 1.88, and the value will come out to be as, so you will get the value as 2.61, right? So this is what the value you will get, 2.61. That will be the upper critical value. Okay. So this is where, and what was the critical value is 2.63, and what was the value that we got? That we got it as 2.63, right? So that was given in the output. So sample mean amount is 2.6. So we do not raise an alarm in that case.
Yeah. How did we get upper critical of 2.61? So it should be 2.5 plus 1.8 into 1.88 into 0.6, right?
0.65 root of that 100.
But they have already said in the question that you can approximate the standard deviation of sample as the population standard deviation. So that is why I just took as 0.6. In the second paragraph, you can see.
See, basically, it is given to you as standard deviation of the sample. So, what happens is, generally what we do is when the standard deviation of the sample is also given and the sample size is given to us, we still calculate that standard error, right? Standard error is what is the error that we can get in that calculation. So we calculate that up again. That is 0.6 divided by root of 100, the sample size that you take.
Okay, but why have they given such a confusing statement? You can approximate the population standard deviation to the sample standard deviation, which is 0.6 in this case. This is a bit confusing.
Yeah. So there is suggestion, right? So if you see there is this standard deviation 0.6 instead of population standard deviation, so we have to assume that as over there. So that is why you have to do it. So this is just a practice question, right? That is what the exam reason was. Got it? So I think the first confusion that you all had was that the critical value that you had to find, right? Where we went wrong. So if it's a one-tail test, so that value comes only on the left-hand side or only on the right-hand side. Correct? If suppose that was, if I had to test it, that if it the value, if my null hypothesis would have been that what are the chances that the value is going to be, like the company is claiming that it has to be more than 2.5. So we have to test it for whether the value is less than 2.5 or not. So we would have checked the Z critical value on that 0.03, which would have again been 1.88 only. It would have been minus 1.88. That is the only impact that would have come over there. Okay. Now what you do is we also have, in order to test the null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis, we have one more technique which we call it as p-value method. Okay, p-value over here stands for probability of the null hypothesis being accepted or rejected. Okay, so it is exactly the same thing, right? What we have done, it's exactly the same thing. It's just the opposite of that, right? So what we do is we find the p-values. Higher the p-value, higher the probability of rejecting, higher the probability of failing to reject null hypothesis, and lower the p-value, higher the probability of null hypothesis being rejected, right? So this is what we actually do over here. So what that p-value technique is, let's try to understand it. So what you do is, if some hypotheses are given to you, so one is you do it with the critical method technique, or you do it with the p-value method technique. In the p-value method technique, what you will be doing is, first of all, you will have to calculate the z-score for the sample mean of the distribution, right? You will be calculating the z-critical score. Then what you will do is you will calculate the p-value from the cumulative probability of that for that given z-score table using the z-table. Then what we do is we make a decision on the basis of p-value. We have to multiply that value by 2 if it's a two-tailed test, and if it's a one-tailed test, the value is going to be the same. Okay, so let's try to understand it with an example over here. So if you saw now, if you take an example, the same AC example. Okay, now in this AC example, the basically this average was given to us that the average sale of air conditioner per month per store is 350. Then it was given to us that the standard deviation was of 90. So I found the standard error, right? Standard error came out to be 50. This is something that we did in the previous example also, correct? Then what we do is we find the Z critical score over here. Now, what is this Z critical? This is basically what is now happening is they have given us that this is the average that they found. Now, this is the average that they found. So what I'm doing over here is I am finding this, that this value, how much deviation or how much deviated is it from my mean, that is 350. So I find the score of standardization, I find the Z score. Yes, are we all on the same page? Right, see, in the previous case what I did was, with respect to the mean, I found upper critical, lower critical, and then I just validated that this mean that is given to me, is it lying in that range or not? Correct. Now what I'm doing over here is, now I am actually using that mean value that is given to me. I am calculating that how much deviation is it away from the mean. Then I will find how much probability does it cover under that table. If I get that thing, if I find that probability, my job is done, right? It's just the opposite technique. That's it. So I find the Z critical, that comes out to be 370.16 minus 350 divided by the standard deviation, that is this, that is 15. So I get the Z critical as 1.34. It's not Z critical, I would say it's a Z score, score of standardization. Okay. Now this will be a two-tailed test, right? It's a two-tailed test because it's equal. Now what we do is, this was the point that we found. Then what we do is we have to figure it out that whether we are going to accept the null hypothesis or we are going to reject the null hypothesis. So what happens is, if basically the percentages are very high, if the p-value comes out to be on very extreme sides, right, that is the value is very, very low. So what we do is we reject null hypothesis, right? If you see it over here, this was the command that if the p-value is low, we are going to reject null hypothesis. If the values are high, we are going to fail to reject null hypothesis. So what do I mean by that is, so like if you see now, this was the Z critical that you got, 1.34. Okay, now this is the Z critical that we have. Now what we do over here is, if you go into and find that probability, what is the area of curve that we are covering under that? How much area are we covering under that? The with the Z score of 1.34, that is 90%. We are actually covering 90% of the area for the score of 1.34. Right? We go and check the data in this Z table now. Right? I hope you understand what is this 0.9. That is 90% of the area is being covered by this score. That is if we are up to the point of 370.16. Yes, everyone, are we?
Yes.
Okay. So now how much area is left? How much area is left behind? If I say 90% area is I'm covering under this 1.34 deviation. How much area is basically I'm not covering?
10%.
1%, or maybe, I mean, not 1%, 10%.
10%.
Right?
10%.
10%, right? 1 minus, I will say 0.909. So that is something that I'm not covering under that area. Now that 1 minus that value is actually called as your p-value. Now that is called as your p-value. So p-value is the probability that which you are not with the area that is lying in that critical region now over here. So this is the p-value technique that you have. So the p-value comes out to be as 0.1 over here. Okay. Now because it was a two-tailed test, what I am going to do is I am going to multiply this 0.1 with 2. So we will multiply that 0.18 into 2 because that area critical region is going to lie on both the sides. Okay. Now the output come out to be as 0.18, 18%. So now if you see the area is lying 18%, and if you were taking alpha as a 0.05, that is 5%. So if that probability had come less than this, you would have said that we reject null hypothesis. But it is coming more than that, which is 18%. So we are going to say we fail to reject null hypothesis. Right?
Can you repeat the last line, please? 2.5%. You're saying alpha is 0.5 since it's two-tailed, it will be 2.5% on each side.
So that is like 2.5% that gets divided on both the sides, right?
Okay.
So technically what you do is you just check it with the 5% only. You don't need to even split it that over here. This is just for the representation that I've shown. So basically what you do is because p value was 1 minus that is the 0.18 some value that was coming as 0 point is one value that was coming. So what we do is, because this is a two-tailed test, right? Because now the value can be less than also and greater than also than that. So we have to multiply it by 2. Because it's a two-tailed test, we multiply by that 2. So you get 18%. Now, if that value is more than your alpha, if that value is more than your alpha that you have decided, that means you will fail to reject null hypothesis. But if that value comes less than 5%, if that value comes less than 5%, that is less than 0.05, you will reject null hypothesis. Okay.
Basically, it means that if it is lying before the 2.5%, then we accept the null hypothesis or we fail to reject the null hypothesis.
Right.
And if it is in the 2.5% red zone, then we will reject null hypothesis.
Right. Okay. So technically, when we do linear regressions or any other regression analysis, over there output is actually shown in the form of p-value method. So we don't even have to calculate this thing. The models calculate that p-values for us. So that is this we use over there. Okay.
But answer would have been same even if we would have done with z-score.
Our technique would be same. Both the methods are same. So it's just that when we work on the date, when we make the predictive models, so over there we actually check the significance of the variable, whether a variable is significant in terms of predictions or not. So that is where the output actually is shown in the form of p values. So they don't show the z critical, they show the p value that is significant. So I can say, right, that the AC sales, whatever technique, the whatever way, right, when if someone is saying that the sale of AC will not be 350, it will not be equal to 350, he would have taken something into consideration, right? That whether the temperature is going to increase or the temperature is going to decrease. So he gave his statement based on some conditions. So now the conditions on which he gave that statement, those conditions were true, right?
Right.
Right, Les? So just give me 1 minute, right? Just give me a tap of water bottle. Just be back. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So now finally this question for all of you, right? So please attempt this question now. So once you are able to do this, right? So that means your hypothesis testing is mostly you are clear on that. Okay. Some part of the question is on the second page also. So I'll show you that, right? You can start taking the question from here, and some part of the question is on this page. So Radhika, you're saying UCV and LCV. Okay. So what do you say? Do we should reject it or
We don't need to reject it because sample mean is falling within the range. So it is not a regulatory alarm.
okay? Others? So Radhika, you have done it with the critical value method.
Yes.
Can you try this with the p-value also?
Okay.
P-value 0.005. Okay. See, let's try to do it over here. So what is happening over here is, if you see over here in the question, it is given to me that there is a pharmaceutical company that manufactures a antipyretic drug in the form of a tablet with a paracetamol as a active ingredient, right? The amount of paracetamol that is deemed to be safe is 500 mg. If the value is too low or too high, it is going to make that medicine effective or too serious. And there are 10 identical manufacturing lines. So your task is to take some samples, measure the amount of paracetamol in them, and find the hypothesis that the manufacturing process is running successfully. That is, paracetamol content is within the regulation. So you have the time and resources to take about a sample of 900, right? So what we have done is we have taken a sample of 900 over here. So I can write it down. Sample is 900, right? Then what we do is we found over here that you get an average of 510. So average that we got was 510. And what should be the ideal average? So ideal average should be 500. Right? So ideal average is something that we have defined as it should be 500. Okay, this is what we should have as the ideal average now. Now over here, once we have this ideal average, and this is something that we found, so we have to validate that this is lying within that the consistent over here or not. So what you do over here is, are we given the do we have this and just okay. If you take over here, so then this is the 10 identical issues that we have taken, and each plant produces 10,000 tablets per hour, so that is not an issue. Okay. Now what we do over here is, first of all, we find the Z critical, sorry, the Z score. What will be that Z score, right? So for that, what we need to do is we have to pick that the mean, and the standard deviation that we have to take over here is that the standard deviation of the sample is given as 110, right? So over here, if you see that the sample deviation is given as 110 to you. So what will be that? So what will be the standard score that you will get? 510 minus 500 divided by the 110, right? So let's calculate it over here. So I'll come over here and I will say equal to 510 minus 500 divided by 110. We get 0.09, right? This is the score of standardization that I'm going to get over here. And sorry, there is something that is wrong I've done. It should not be 110, it should be 110 divided by square root of 900, right? That also I have to take. That comes out to be as 2.72, or I can say it as 2.73. That is the number that I get. Are we all clear on this? This number 2.73, how I'm getting this, how this p-value is, how this score of standardization is coming, p-value. This class. So what I've done is I'm saying 510. So I'll write it down over here. Sample is 300, right? Standard deviation is 110.
Sample is
Sample
900.
is 900.
Sorry.
Sample is 900.
So what did I do? I was taking 900 only, square root of 900. Oh,
You
okay,
wrote
over
sample.
here. Oh, this is 900, and average is 500. That is the average of that sample what we should have.
Sample.
And this is the sample mean. Sample mean that we got was 510. So what I did with the first step is I am finding the Z, score of standardization, which is coming out to be this. Okay. Now what I do over here is I will go in the Z table. In the Z table, I'm going to find the 2.73. So 2.73. What does it comes out to be as? 2.10123. This is what the 3 is. 0.9968. .9968. So what will be the p-value?
0. Point into multiply by 2.
1 minus, right?
1
So
minus,
equal to 1 minus whatever this value is, 0.0032.
multiply by 2.
Okay. Now this is a two-tailed test.
Yeah, 2 tables, yes.
Two-tailed test. So I will have to multiply this by 2, equal to this multiplied by 2. It comes out to be a 0.0064. Okay. Now what was the alpha that we were taking? That was 95%.
Yes.
Alpha was 5%.
So I mean the confidence level was 95%, so alpha is 5%. Sorry. So that was 95% was the confidence level. So this I took the total terms. 5%. Now this value, is this value less than this or this is more than this? So I can say that this number that I have got
More than this.
is less than this, and a smaller
Sorry,
thing.
sir.
So this is less than this. So when this value is less, what do? We reject null hypothesis, right? We are going to reject null hypothesis. That means we need to raise an alarm that the company is not manufacturing the drug medicines properly.
But why are we comparing p-value with alpha?
Because that is are the error chances that we are taking. That we are assuming that we should have the error up till we are covering that 95% of the curve. If that lies in that 95% region, in that case, we say that okay, it is less, but it is coming less than.
This is a two-tailed test, so shouldn't you consider 2.5%?
That you have already considered this, now that is why you have multiplied this by 2. If you would have compared it by 0.032, then you would have taken it 2.5. But what we have done is we have already taken that multiplication so that I can easily compare it with the 5% only. So I don't need to check it on both the sides, right? And even if you would have done it with a 0.032, that is 0.32%, right? 0.32%. Now 0.32% is again less than 2.5. That means it lies in that acceptance region. So that means we reject the null hypothesis. Are you clear on this?
I have a question in calculating Z here.
Your answer was opposite. You were saying not a regulatory alarm.
I had the same values. I did the same. Like I don't know why it's
I
different.
think the calculation of Z value is different from mine.
But
You're
how
not
do you calculate Z value?
Yeah. I mean, Amit, can you please keep in L22?
this value.
Yeah, L20. No, the 2.7, 2.7%. Yeah.
So how we find this is a score of standardization. So what we are saying is that this is the average that is given to us, that is 500. And this is the average of the sample, that the sample that I took. So remember we did a couple of questions that when we were saying that on an average, Amit takes 30 minutes to reach office, right? Now, what are the chances that he will take more than 32 minutes to reach to the office? So what we were doing in that case, where I said that, Amit reaches to the office in 30 minutes with a standard deviation of 2 minutes. And we said that, okay, what are the chances that he will take more than 32 minutes? So we said, let's find the standard score. That is 32 minus 30 divided by standard deviation, that is 2. So that means more than one deviation. That is that same standard score that we have found. So we are saying that if the average is this, and we have found the sample average is this, now how much deviation is it away when the standard deviation of that sample is given to us 110 for a sample of 900. So what I did simply 510 minus 500 divided by standard deviation of this 110 divided by 900. Clear?
Calculated Z score. Correct. This is the point where this sample mean 510 is lying. Okay. That 2.72 standard deviations away.
It is 2.72 standard deviations away.
Right.
So then what I do is I find its probability, that how much area is it covering at that 2.72, that is 2.73. So I came into the Z table and I found that 2.73 is covering 0.9968 area, right?
Okay.
Okay. Then what we are doing over here is then we find the p-value, that what is the rejection area that we have. That is 1 minus this, 1 minus 0.9968.
Yes.
That comes out to be 0.0032.
Hmm.
Then because it's a two-tailed test, so we will have to take the region on both the sides. 0.0032 on this side, 0.0032 on this side, on the other side. So the total becomes 0.064. Total becomes 0.064. If you change it in the percentage, that is 0.64 percentage. Yes, Radhika, Rama, Archad,
Got it.
correct.
Got it, Anand.
Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, Radhika, you have a doubt?
I'm just thinking because this is our p-value, and that 0.0032 is which is coming on one side. So we are multiplying it by 2 to 0.0064, that is 0.64%. But when you're multiplying it by 2, does it become a one-tail test?
When you're multiplying by 2, then sorry.
Because after that, what we are doing is we are comparing 0.64% 5%, and we are saying 0.64% is less than alpha. That is our
Correct.
level of.
That is the so that means that percentage, the probability that we are getting. So if I go back in that over here once, okay, so if you see it over here, so this is what we said, that 2.5% and 2.5%. In the example that I had shown you over there, the p-value came out to be 18%, right? That was far from that critical region. But in this case, it is coming just 0.64%. Technically, the point is lying over here somewhere, which becomes your rejection region.
Okay. But that's what I'm saying. 0.64 is lying there, and 0.32 would be lying further back, like further on the right side.
Further, yes. But 6.4 is actually 0.64 is a sum of this. 3.2 of this side, 3.2 of this side, that we have taken as 0.64.
So that's what I'm saying. Doesn't it become a one-tail test then? How is it a two-tail? Because we are comparing points.
Adding that reason, so in the question when it says alpha is 5%, right? So this is the complete alpha that they have given. So what you do is you divide that alpha into two parts. That you say, okay, 2.5 on this side and 2.5 on this side. Now, when you have found that, okay, this is the error part that you get 0.032, right? 0.0032. So what happens in that case is you are finding it on the one side. So if you want to find it for two sides, we'll just multiply it by two areas. So that means 0.02% area covered on this side, 0.32 covered on this side. So that makes it 0.64. So you are adding the area, na? So if I'm having 2.5% area on this side and 2.5 area on this side, so Radhika, how much area have I covered?
You have covered
5%.
5% only, but I'm saying when you're adding the area, you are not, but you are changing the direction also, because now we are only checking on the right side. We are not checking on the left side. Like, you understand my question? Like, if we are dividing the alpha, there was a reason for it, because we are checking on both sides, and both sides of the graph can be a critical. But now if we're adding the area, that means only one side of the graph, that is the right side, becomes a critical area, and we are comparing that. Even
You will see.
0.0032 also, it would.
You're just complicating into your mind. Nothing is happening over there. So what you will do is, if you want to compare, you compare. You know what we are doing is you will either compare 0.0032 with 2.5, or you compare 0.0064 with 5%. Both are the same things. So if you don't want to complicate it, it's not one tail two tails idea. It's just that to simplify that calculation, we have just said this thing over here that we can just multiply for a two tail test, just multiply it by 2 and take those both the regions. So that is why if you will see, if you are comparing over here, when you are saying 18% is more than 5%, you are not comparing it with 2.5, right? Had it been a one tail test, you would have compared it with 2.5. You are comparing this with 5% also. Take that other number also into the consideration. So when you have alpha of 5%, when you divide it into two parts, 2.5 left, 2.5 right. So you compare that number with 2.5 on both the sides. But now what you're also doing is you're comparing it with the 5% also. That is also the added value. So if you do not want to complicate it in your mind, if you're getting confused in that, so just keep this in mind. Just compare that 0.032 with 2.5. That's it. As simple as that. Now,
Yeah.
I think that will make the idea that, okay, you are doing it only on the one side. That also is getting true over here because
That is also true. Yeah.
that is also true, right? So any which ways your answers will always come the same. They will not change. You are just, it's a mathematical rule that you're multiplying on both the sides by 2. 2.5 into 2 and 18.32 into 2. That is what we are doing. LHS and RHS both are multiplied by 2 and then we are just comparing that double the numbers. That's it.
Okay. Over here, why did we not do the upper critical value and lower critical value method?
Sorry?
In this question, why could we do it with the upper critical value and lower critical value method?
How you can do that with that also? You can do it that also. You will get the same result.
If we try it through that, can you try it through that? Because through that I'm getting upper critical values and lower critical values.
What is the upper critical value?
I'm getting 517.186.
Okay, so you mean you said, so you will say 500 plus minus. So your Z critical in this case will be, so Z critical that you will find. So we are doing it at an just hello.
Hello?
Sorry, I know I think there was a network.
No problem. I think I was doing something wrong. I was, when calculating the upper critical and lower critical, I was adding the sample mean instead of the population. So I found my mistake.
510 plus you added that.
Yeah, I was adding 510 plus and 510 minus.
Would be 500, yes. 500 plus 1.65 into that.
When I do 500 plus, it comes out as upper critical comes out as 507.8, which is, so our sample mean is 510, which falls outside. So,
Correct. So that means again you raise an alarm.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, guys. So this is where we come to an end. So we'll meet tomorrow night. I hope this hypothesis testing is clear. It's a bit confusing, right? Because for the people who are not from stats, and definitely I'm also not from there. So for me also it took a lot of time and a couple of questions came to my mind, like you all are having. So, but yeah, slowly and gradually we get adjusted to it. Okay. Then let's connect tomorrow and then let's take the things ahead, right? Okay, guys. See you tomorrow.